Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Welcome back to my channel. In today's video, inshallah, we are going to be discussing the things you have in your environment. Not just the things you have in your environment, but the people you have in your environment and how that can impact on you, your life, on your family and on your children, inshallah. Before we begin, don't forget to download my free printable organizer to keep your life organized at www.cupofparenting.com/planner. Let's begin. Now, do you have plants in your house? Where you're sitting right now, if you're sitting in your house right now, do you have plants? Now hear me out. Yesterday I was delivering a course on organization, motivation, time management for Muslimas, and one of the things we were talking about is the environment and how important it is to declutter and think about what kind of environment you have and the impact that has on your productivity. And actually I was really surprised to hear about a study that was done, I think it was the University of Exeter, in which they found that offices that had more green plants in them made the staff happier, and they found they actually increased productivity in those offices by 15%, which is quite a significant amount. And what they found was that by having plants in your environment, it also increased things like concentration, things like the perception of the air quality, the satisfaction that people got. Think about it as Muslims. In the bigger picture, plants and greenery are something provided to us as a blessing by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yeah, you see them all over the world in different places. There's hundreds and hundreds of variety which we can't even keep account on, and they're there for a reason, okay? And the reason this research was so important is because it found that it was the first kind of research that found that how just by having plants in the environment, it increased productivity, increased your concentration levels, and that then has an impact on your day-to-day life, doesn't it? When you come into a room and it's messy and cluttery and disorganized, you don't really feel like doing the things you're supposed to be getting done that day. Of course, this is just one aspect of motivation and organization, but it's really important because it made me think about the Islamic perspective on environmental care. Now, we already know in Islam that the environment is regarded as a trust from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we are highly encouraged to look after our environment, to take care of it, to protect it, to keep it clean, and that relates to lots of different things. So obviously there's the person themselves, right? We know the well-known hadith, at-tahuru shatrul iman, cleanness and purification are half of iman. So in terms of keeping your clothes clean is extremely important. Keeping the area that you pray in and do ibadah and worship to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is really important, but also it goes beyond that. It goes beyond to keeping your house clean, and if you keep your rooms and your houses clean, then inshallah it means that you're more aware of the environment outside. You know, some of you might tend to the area outside of your house and keep that clean, and this is something that we shouldn't take lightly, okay? We should be quite mindful of the waste that we produce and the clutter and the rubbish that we produce and how we're managing that, and that also has an impact then on our mind and on our life and on our productivity. And that's why it's really important. Unfortunately, we do live in a day and age where there are some societies, there's some cities in hundreds of countries around the world, there's some environments in which from far, you wouldn't be able to tell that Muslims are unclean. So you should try your best if you can to do something about that and to keep it clean. So that extends to both inside your immediate environment, your house, and outside. One of the things I get questions a lot about from the mums that I work with is how they can keep on top of keeping things so clean when they have children. Now, I am going to point out that I don't mean you have to be meticulously clean all the time, every time. There's a difference between things getting dirty and things being messy, okay? We all have busy lives, and sometimes, of course, a house is going to look lived in and it's going to get messy, especially if you've got young children around. But what I am saying is don't let it get to a point where it's filthy and dirty and then it's harming your health. And I'm not just talking about your physical health, because you've got germs flying around and that could cause problems for you, for your health, for your children's health, but also your mental health. And now, as I've said, it makes a big difference as to whether you have or you don't have a clean environment, and that includes being clean, but also having things like plants and greenery in it, so making it quite nice for yourself, and that has an impact on the atmosphere, and then it'll have an impact on your mood. It'll have an impact on the kind of work you do and how much work you get done, and also just the family environment, atmosphere at home. That's why it's also recommended, where sometimes if it gets too much, whether you're at home or you're at work, it's actually really healthy and good to go out and take a walk. Why? Because you've got the fresh air. It's really beneficial to just, connect with the wildlife and the nature and the greenery outside as well, which again, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given to us as a ni'mah, as a bounty. And this is one of the blessings that sometimes you take for granted, or maybe you don't even utilize, or you don't know. And it's good for your children, it's good for their health to get them out and about as well, and to make them conscious about keeping the environment clean, because if they're from a young age going to be learning about keeping the environment clean and the benefits of keeping it clean and looking good, then they'll extend that to keeping their own homes clean when they grow up, and keeping their environment clean, and knowing the importance as a Muslim to keeping the environments clean. It's even rewardable as a Muslim if there's something on the road outside that you remove it, because you're removing harm from someone's way. So it's really, really important to look after the environment, inshallah. Another thing that I want to talk about is not just the things we have in our environment, but the people that we surround ourselves with. We all know as Muslims how important it is to have important friends surrounding us to help us with our deen. Now, what do we say when we talk about important friends? These are people who are righteous. Now, who are people who are righteous? There might be people who remind you of your Lord when you start to forget. There might be people who come and help you and join in the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the Prophet, peace be upon him, himself said, the believers in their mutual support are like a structure, parts of which support another part. Okay? Muslims have one another to support them. So when things are going tough or when things are getting difficult, it's really important to surround yourself by the right people, so they can give you right advice, so they can support you, so that they don't seek out your faults. Okay, one of the characteristics of a righteous friend is the one who doesn't look or seek out the faults of his brother. Rather, he finds excuses for him. And this is really important because, again, think about who you and your children have got in your immediate environment. Okay, there's some people that you can't control that are in your environment, but often you can control a lot of people who are in your environment, and I mean friends, people that you maybe see on a daily basis or weekly basis, or regularly, who you keep company with, who your children keep company with. And you should know and be aware of the friends that your children are keeping company with, if they are advising them to be good and are good people themselves, or if they're not, because then that'll have a negative and bad influence on them if those people are not in their environment. And from the Prophet, peace upon him, and from the Sahaba, we know that the characteristics of a righteous friend include those people who have got a cheerful manner, they're gentle in their speech, they're big-hearted, they're generous, they're not very angry people, they don't have arrogant behavior, they show respect and joy when they see their friends, and they're happy for their friends. People who are happy for you, they will support you. But also when things are going tough and things are difficult and hard, they're there to advise you, but they do it for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay? And they do it with the right intentions, and they do it because they're genuinely looking out for you. And that's something really important to think about, whether the people you surround yourself with are those kind of people. Because you don't want to surround yourself with the wrong people who give you negative energy or give you bad advice or don't want good for you, because unfortunately some people don't want good for you. Don't think everybody in the world wants good for you. It's the way the world is. Or if you surround yourself by toxic people, because this will have an impact on you, even if you're not like that and you're a good person. And then you'll start taking it out on your children and your family, and that's how it can have a really negative impact and influence on your life. There's also a saying that do not befriend anyone, but if you befriend him, he'll enhance you. If you're burdened with something, he will help you. If he sees a shortcoming in you, he will make it up for you. If he's something good for you, he will keep it in mind. If you ask of him, he will give to you. If you refrain from asking of him, he will offer you his help. If he blames you for something, he will not desert you, and if you keep your distance from him, he will not abandon you. And these are the kind of qualities you should be thinking about, and the kind of characteristics you should be thinking about when you're thinking about good people or good friends. If you're in an environment where not only do you not have good people, maybe you have bad people or people that you don't get on with, or people who are negative, or you feel like, you know, they're not the kind of people that you would like to hang around with, then think about how you are with them, whether you can keep a distance with them, or whether they're a negative energy or negative personality is rubbing off on you and having a negative impact on you, whether you can remove yourself from that environment. You know, if it's at work, can you go to another department, or can you get a different job, or do you have to be in that particular gathering if it's a gathering in which those people are hanging around? Or try not to say too much, but do think about whether this is having an impact on you, because I know sometimes people say it's hard, those people exist in our environment, but then they don't realize the kind of negative impact it's having upon them and upon their children. Another really good characteristic of a righteous friend is that they are happy for you and they don't envy you. This one is really, really important, because this is a sign of a blessing from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If you can find friends or family, people around you who are genuinely happy for you and happy for what you've got, and you know, they rejoice for you, they say mashallah, tabarakallah, and they see as that it's a blessing from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they would praise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for this blessing upon you. You know, it is in Surah Nisa in the Quran. Or do they envy people for what Allah has given them of His bounty? Okay, so a righteous person wouldn't envy you, but somebody who isn't righteous and isn't happy for you will envy you, and they might even have hatred for you, and they might not be happy. So just be careful again who you have in your environment. Okay, an honest and righteous friend deals with his brothers honorably, honestly, and sincerely. And you know when you have a good friend, because you know, you look forward to seeing them, you enjoy talking to them, maybe they've helped you out, maybe they've advised you sincerely. So after a while of meeting them, you'll know who these people are. Make sure you hold on to them, make sure you do dua for them, especially in their absence, and make sure you appreciate them and keep these kind of people with you. You know, we say, I've heard in the business world that they say you're the product of the 5 people who are closest. And there's a motivational speaker called Jim Rohn, and he said really famously that we're the average of 5 people that we spend the most time with. I'll say that again. We are the average of the 5 people we spend the most time with. And this relates to the law of averages, and it's like a theory that, you know, in any situation these are the given outcomes, looking at the number of people. And some people even say things like, you know, show me your friends, I'll show you your future. And the reason why this is important is because they say that you should use this as an audit to think about who are the 5 people that you spend the most time with. Okay, or you know, usually when you go to a gathering, or if you have them as friends, who are the 5 people that you're usually with, because this shows a reflection on the type of personality you have as well. If you hang around with, usually there might be people of similar characteristics and personality and values that you have that they share with you. Sometimes they're not, so think about that. Think about who they are, what they stand for, what kind of characteristics they have, what kind of personality they have, and is this something that you like? You know, is this something that you aspire to be like? Maybe you're not even at the level they're at, but you would like to be because they're good people, and that's a good thing. That's okay. They don't have to be exactly the same as you, but just think about, you know, if you had to put them all in a line and look at them, would you be happy that you're spending the most time in your life with them? Now, if you think about this further, it means that, you know, if you surround yourself by people who they want to do better, so maybe they go to particular classes, maybe they engage in particular habits that you want to also engage in, then that'll push you to do better. Because usually, think about it, for example, if you want to go to the gym. Now, usually people, not always, but usually they take a friend to the gym, or when they go to classes, especially when you're a little bit older, you tend not to go on your own. and you have a partner that you go with. And that's because you want to get that encouragement for each other, you get that motivation, and you have that accountability as well, because they'll call you every week and say, are you ready, or I'll pick you up, or let's go together, or you're not coming this week. Somebody to just go with and partner up with. So if you think about that in terms of having people in your environment who are doing good and trying to push themselves or trying to improve themselves, then you're likely to do that as well. On the other hand, if you have people in your environment who engage in self-destructing habits, these habits will start to affect you negatively. Now, there was even a study done in which they found out when it came to people's weight, that if they were hanging around with people who were clinically overweight, then there was a high percentage of they themselves in a couple of years' time starting to put on weight as well. So that was really interesting. So that's not even something, personality wise, that's something related to physical health. So, just think really carefully about that. So it doesn't mean that you want to surround yourself by yes people. I'm not saying that. If you're obviously making a mistake, like we said, one of the characteristics of a good friend is that they'll point that out, they'll tell you, they'll stop you, they'll reprimand you, or they'll just ask you, what are you doing, why are you doing this, this isn't like you, or this isn't good for you, or maybe you need to take time out, or maybe you need to seek help for whatever problem it is. So if you have these kind of like-minded people around you, that should make it easy for you as well, inshallah. So I hope you found this reminder useful this week, inshallah. See you on the next one. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa